Hey everyone, welcome back to Spotlight Reviews. And on the spotlight today is season 3, episode 7 of The Handmaid's Tale. Let's get into it. Now, the episode opens up with the Gallows and it also closes with the Gallows. And I think it was really important because I think they're starting to show a shift in how strict the policies are becoming now in Gilead. June mentions that this is the 4th hanging that they've had to do that week. So I think they're tightening up the ropes, quote unquote, on the policies in Gilead. And they're starting to adopt some of the stricter policies that are trickling down that we saw from DC. I noticed that in breaking down the Gallows, the ropes that are used are obviously red because everything that the handmaids use are red. And it is also in the shape of an arrow, almost pointing towards the Gallows. And if you look at it in the reverse view, if you're standing at the Gallows, you can see like it comes to a point and it goes out. Now that rope, all 3 ropes come together in the center. And the centerpiece is on the Gallows, and it's that crest of Gilead, and it's going straight through that crest. The flags that are hanging with the Gilead crest on it are black now. Now, they're different colors in different scenarios, but on the Gallows, they're black, and the, guys that are standing at the top that actually perform the hanging, they have all black on and have black hoods on their heads, which I thought was a interesting correlation because remember how when you hang on the wall, you always have a hood on your head. So it's like symbolizing, death and, the end because they have black hoods on their heads. Now, it's obvious that the handmaids hate the hangings, and Janine's face the whole time is just mortified in all the hangings. And look at all of Matthew. She's just like, she's just peaceful as can be. Okay, now the struggle has been seriously real when it comes to Of Matthew. And in this episode, honey, it came to a boiling point. And I feel like we have been waiting for this to happen episode after episode. June has been trying to be patient with Of Matthew, and at this point, by the end, enough was enough. Now, not only is June feeling, impatient with Of Matthew, the other handmaids are feeling it too. They're trying to distract her. They're trying to get her away at the grocery store. I think they all understand that Of Matthew is institutionalized. She's too far gone. Every time we think she's coming out of it a little bit, she has a toe over the line, she brings it back, because that is where she finds her refuge. That is how she deals with the pain of living in Gilead. This is why it's so easy for Aunt Lydia to manipulate Of Matthew and make her think that her betrayal is actually saving June and helping June, because she knows that if she empowers Of Matthew to watch June and to report back to her, Of Matthew is thinking she's doing a service and she's doing something noble, when really, she's too far gone to understand the repercussions of what she's done. Okay, so not only are the hangings something that's becoming normalized and they're getting more frequent every week, when they're at the grocery store, there goes that veil on a handmaid. And when I saw that, I was like, uh-oh, it's already trickling down. It's like coming from a city and going down to the country. And now you're starting to see, slowly but surely, they're going to start implementing these tactics that they're using up north in DC. And when I saw that, I was just like, oh man, like it's happening. It's already happened in DC, and there's thousands of handmaids, just silenced. So I'm wondering if that handmaid was punished for a reason, or are they all going to end up like that? I'm just wondering how that's going to play out later on. One thing I noticed when they were at the grocery store was over the PA system, they announced this is the last week for wheat bread. Now, I'm wondering, does that mean that Gilead has a shortage of resources? Now, I had said before in the other episode that, the grocery store isn't jam-packed. It's not like the grocery store of right now. It's very scarce. Everything's spread out. It's sparse. It's not so full. So I'm just thinking, where are their resources coming from? How is the agricultural, how is that trade? Where are they getting it from? Who are they trading with, or how are they growing crops and getting food? I'm very interested to see the agricultural resources that are coming into Gilead and how that whole system works. Okay, let's talk about June's plan to go visit Hannah in Brookline. Now, when she's talking to Frances, who's the Martha in the Mackenzie's household, she says that, let's just ask Hannah where she wants to go. Now, June, you're going to plan this risky trip just to ask Hannah her opinion, whether she wants to leave the Mackenzie household or be with you and escape to Canada. Now, to me, I understand. You want to see your daughter. You want to talk to her. You want to make that trip. You're not going to stop at doing that. But June, to me, sometimes she pushes it to the point where she doesn't really have a plan. She just wants to jump at the opportunity because it just seems like the opportunities are very rare. But June, there was no real plan. Just like that night you planned on scooping her up out of the Mackenzie house. I just feel like it was too rushed. But I think the whole plot and journey over there had a purpose as far as the writing of the show. I like the fact that we learn a lot about Mrs. Lawrence through this journey to the school. She's on medication, as in this scene when June is giving her tray. And at first I thought she kind of suffered from the fear of people because when June was telling her, let's go out, she's like, but there's so many people. But I think that she has a lot of fears about a lot of different things. For one, I think she is afraid of a lot of people. For two, I don't think she signed up for this type of world that her husband built, and it caused her to have a mental breakdown. And three, she has suffered a lot of loss as far as with children. We learned that June learns on the walk that, she was being sort of selfish. She wanted to make this trip happen at any cost. And she didn't realize that Eleanor had this very hurtful past that really affects her. I mean, even on the walk, seeing Miss Putnam's baby, and she's just saying, we're so glad you didn't die. And it's because it's hinting that Eleanor has lost some children in the past. I think we learned that Eleanor is fragile, but she is very capable of doing a lot, and she's capable of more than Commander Lawrence gives her credit for. Now, I wanted to point out a couple of things that I noticed about the school. Now, when you roll up to this school, this does not look like a friendly place to go to school. It looks like a prison. It doesn't look like any school building that you're used to seeing. There are guards everywhere. I mean, there's a guard tower on the right with sandbags, and there's more guards on the left. There's guards on the lawn. There's a guard walking a guard dog. There's two trucks. One is armed with a guy up top with a weapon. I mean, there's concertina wire surrounding it. This is like, I guess, their crown and jewels, so they want to protect it. But it just is not warm. It's not welcoming, and you wouldn't even think that they would keep children here. Did you guys notice when these kids come out? It's a group of girls, and I guess that's a teacher in the front, and that girl in the front, the shortest girl, is tied with this rope around her, and the other two are basically like guiding her in the back, like holding on to the tail ends of the rope, and then her hands are also bound with rope. Now, did she do something wrong? Is this how they go on walks? Is she about to be punished? Why is she leaving the school? I don't know, but I thought that was a interesting little scene to show how either they discipline or some type of routine that they're having here. Right here, I noticed as June is sneaking around the building, there's a sign on the building, and it looks like a child kneeling and praying, and then like a beam of light. So maybe that's their symbol, or crest for the school. I also noticed this sign. It's a camera on the left, and then it has that It has a triangle, and inside it has a kid jumping rope and then another kid playing with a ball. So I guess it's just saying, watching, playing children or surveilling children. And then there's like this unique little keypad on that door. It looks kind of electronic or something. That was just another thing I noticed in the shop. Also, when June is walking along the wall, it's almost like she's right there, but she's so close, but yeah, she's so far. And if you see in the snow, the kids are playing hopscotch, and I noticed it's all girls playing. So is this an all-girls school, or is this just, the girls playing in a different section of the yard? And also, once again, their games are very traditional. They have hopscotch, and they're just like running around, playing traditional games. Let's move over to Serena and Fred. Now, Serena is getting her dreams coming true on this tour. I mean, Olivia takes her to this house that could be hers. And as they pass, did you notice that there's a family of 3 saying goodbye to their commander or their father, and it just looks like the perfect picturesque family that Serena wants. And then Olivia takes her to the house right next door. And what is interesting is I like the shot here of her walking in the shoes. The shoes are still there. It's almost like that family was literally taken from that home with the clothes on their back, because their shoes are still there, and it kind of just shows the past and the future by her foot in the shoe that she wears now coming in. The past is gone, and this is the new era of Gilead. And I thought it was interesting. In this shot, you see the newspaper, and it says terror in Washington. And I feel like, whoever lived there, they were worried. They had a glass of wine. They were reading the newspaper, the current events it was probably the beginning of the outbreak of the change and the new world that it is now today. As Serena and Olivia are walking through the house, she's stepping over glass, and there's broken things everywhere, hinting that, they were just taken by probably eyes or guardians, and, there was a fight, in the house before they were taken. And as she's stepping over all the glass, she's saying, "Oh, the light is beautiful in this house." I mean, it just shows you the separation and how cynical that she can be. You see that there's ruin in this house, that, there was destruction done, and all you can think about is how nice the house is for you. I also thought it was interesting when Serena asked Olivia, "Oh, who lived here before?" And she said, "Oh, I think they were Baptists." And usually you would say someone's occupation like, "Oh, they were teachers," or they were, construction workers or whatever. But your status is determined by your religious beliefs now. So it's like, "Oh, I think they were Baptists." I thought that was interesting how she categorized them in that way. Serena is definitely getting a taste of how luxurious and great it can be living in Washington. I mean, she gets to go on dates with Fred. They get to go to this ball. She's going to the art museum. All those things that are not available where they live in Gilead. It's almost like someone coming from, a more southern part and moving into the city. You are experiencing all of these different cultural experiences, and you're getting to go to these different events. And I think this is helping her and Fred get closer together and basically like fall back in love with each other. And I also think it is interesting the relationships between all of the wives here in DC, as opposed to the relationships between the wives where Serena comes from in Gilead. No, these wives were like the real housewives of Gilead. They're decorating the ballrooms. They're hinting at, being able to basically have relationships with other men within Gilead. I don't know if there's some like underground things going on there, but I'm excited to figure out what kind of secrecy and things that they have going on. Even with George, he also seems like he has some things going on with his flirtations with Fred. So I feel like even though it does seem exciting to move to DC, I feel like if they decide to do it, I think all that glitters isn't gold. I think there's going to be some compromising of their morals, and there's going to be some underground secrecies that they're going to have to deal with, and they're basically going to be trapped in once they stay. Fred is feeling the pressure from George to make decisions about where Nicole stays. And I think he's also trying to play both sides. Fred is telling Serena one thing, but he's going to do another thing, because I think for Fred, it is ultimately about the political advantages and the power and gains that he gets in that aspect, and not so much about, getting Nicole back. I think he wants to get it back for Serena, but I think he more wants to establish power and relationships, up the political chain. By the way, was anybody else annoyed by this dancing scene? I mean, really, everyone just stopped dancing on the whole dance floor just to watch them. I mean, I know they're guests and they kind of stick out, but I just thought that was really weird, and it was just cliche, and I just did not like that part. Let me know what you guys think about that. Okay, let's talk about Maura and Emily. Now, Emily, I feel like, is still trying to navigate her place within Canada and what it all means. I don't think it was smart for her to talk to that Swiss lady and admit all of that stuff. I feel like she should have had some type of representation with her, or because they're not posing their questions toward, oh, well, how are you treated in Gilead? What happened to you? What they do to you? They're posing the questions like, you're the criminal, and we want to figure out what you did and why you stole this baby. Like, I just think it was just a setup, and I think it's going to be used to her detriment and the detriment of Nicole. And it was obvious, and I just feel like she just fed right into it. Also, I think the, conflict between her and Syl is the fact that Syl doesn't understand everything she's been through, and it's very traumatic, and she's just trying to be there, but she can't connect to Syl in that way. And I feel like that's the good thing about her befriending Maura, is because, maybe they haven't connected on who they dated, but they did connect on who they killed. And I thought that was a very interesting strand that connected them both. And I feel like Maura is such a good, first of all, the woman who plays her is very talented, but I feel like she's such a good connection and a source of strength for Emily. Emily was like running behind that mob crowd. She couldn't even keep up. And then all of a sudden she was in the front and yelling at the minister, and, ends up being locked in jail. So I feel like I like how their story is coming together. I like how Maura is on the other side fighting the good fight, and she hasn't given up on June and on everybody who still is in Gilead. And I'm really hoping that they get deeper and deeper into the politics, and the politics become a major part of the future episodes. All right, guys, so June is so mad at Frances because she thinks that she's the reason that the Mackenzies have moved, and, she has no access to Hannah. And then, she's so ruthless when she's ready to hang this lady. In the beginning, June was so ready to leave after hanging the people. And then now she was the last one standing. Then once she finds out what of Matthew did, it was like she just switched. Did you notice that she just took off that headpiece so slow, like she was taking off jewelry, and we all knew that it was about to go down. And I think kind of a part of us was happy that she finally put Matthew in her place. But did you notice how all the other handmaids surrounded them and kind of was protecting June from, I guess, anyone that was going to try, or guards that were going to try to come up and run up and, break it up. And I just felt like her acting in this scene, Elizabeth Moss, was just so powerful. And she spoke for all of us when she attacked of Matthew, because she didn't even realize how detrimental her actions were in June getting closer to rescuing Hannah. Plus, here she is being mad at that lady, Frances, and hanging her in anger. And now she did all of that, and it was towards the wrong person. And now I'm sure she feels some guilt about that, and it just made her even more angry. And then she just went off, and I was happy about it, and my heart was racing watching this scene, because the anger that just built up in her face was just like, it was so real and I could just feel it through the screen. I am so looking forward to next week and what the next episode is going to be about. I know we go deeper into Aunt Lydia's story, so I'm very excited about that because she's a super complex character. But this is all I have. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye.